Not really. Joe Messina with you. Filling in for Pastor Jerry. I have a lot more hair than he does, but we'll talk about that later. Anyway, I always appreciate the time you're spending with me here on Politics The Pulpit. And yes, for those Christians who are having a hard time with the show, with the title, what have you, actually, if you would actually read and study your Bible, you'd find out that it was full of politics. What Jesus was fighting, what the Jews were fighting, and what have you. And God does have an opinion on everything. And he states it in plain, simple, black and white, plain and simple English. He's a lover of life. He's a creator of life, not a destroyer of life. And, I got to tell you, here in the Santa Clarita Valley, we have 70 churches, and hopefully you all, I realize you can't have 100%, but those of you who are going, are listening, are paying attention, and that your pastors are teaching you about what's going on in the world today and how we as Christians should not buy into it. We should buy into what the Bible says about living our lives, about being fathers, husbands, dads, mothers, and so forth. So, there's a little gem in this valley that we don't talk about very much, or is not discussed very much. Why, I don't know, because it's a great help to our young kids. I've known this organization for close to 20 years now, and have been involved in several ways or in different ways or what have you in supporting them. And we need to make sure our young people know that they don't, there's just not one option. There's not one avenue should you find yourself, pregnant, unplanned pregnancy, if you would. But there are options, more than one. And I think you should know about it, and I think we should discuss it. I've got Angela Bennett on the line with me. She is the director of the Santa Clarita Valley Pregnancy Center. Angela, thanks for being with me. I appreciate your time you're taking with me.
Hi, Joe. Thank you so much. Glad to be with you.
All right, so just give me the 80,000-foot overview. What is the SCV Pregnancy Center? What does it offer? Let people know the services that are offered there.
Yeah, we're here to offer medical services from the pregnancy test. That's just an indicator that there could be a pregnancy. Then doctor follows up with an order for ultrasound, where we can take a peek and make sure that there is a pregnancy in the uterus where it belongs and that it looks like it's going to continue. So that would be a confirmed pregnancy. We do offer some STD testing, but we offer options counseling and care. We have programs and support for those who are choosing to parent. All of our services are free. We also have some post-abortion recovery groups or one-on-one sessions for those who find that they are having some emotional struggles following an abortion. So we're there for them as well. We talk about adoption. We talk about parenting and ways that they might be able to confront some of the challenges in their life and the process of considering their option. We also talk about abortion, what the procedure is, how it affects them, if there's any risks, what happens to the unborn baby in the process. So we provide information, education, and then practical assistance of the medical services. Fully informed, you make much better choices when you're fully informed and you have all the options laid out before you and your questions are all answered.
It's amazing how today we're being told how young people have the right to make their own medical decisions and they have the maturity to do so. I mean, even down to 8, 9 years old. I won't go in that direction with you, but I'll say to you, interestingly enough, the public school systems and others are not giving these young ladies all the options available. You mentioned a couple. Yeah, there's abortion, but there's also adoption. There's also having the child and getting support after having the child. And those are not talked about that much. When these young kids come in to see you, young ladies come in to see you, what's the general state most of the time? Are they petrified? Do they not want to tell their parents? Do they just not want to have this child? I mean, what is the general state of mind?
Generally, they are scared. They are pretty much in crisis. They're afraid of what parents are going to say and others in their life. And it's more about keeping the sexual activity secret than it is anything else. So that's really the case for the younger side. On the older side, college age and above, generally it's life circumstances, and just the unplanned pregnancy causes them to fear that their objectives and won't be met, that they might not be able to their life won't continue as they had planned for it to continue. So money, boyfriend issues, work, all those things play into their decision making. One of the things we find out, though, is for women, they need support. They need someone they can talk to. And when they have someone that they can think out loud with and just talk out what they're thinking and feeling and look at some of the resources and the options that are available to them, we see the sense of crisis de-escalate, and they can take a step back and take a deep breath, and then they can start thinking about laying these options out side by side. That good old-fashioned pro-con grid, Joe, that we did when we were kids. These are the reasons for, these are the reasons against.
Yeah.
It still works. And so we let them do that and think through it. So in reality, no one aspires to abortion. No one ever thinks, I'm going to get pregnant so I can have an abortion. They don't. They're scared, and they need a place where they can feel safe to talk and walk through the circumstances.
Well, I love the fact that you said, first of all, it is a crisis for them. I mean, they don't know. Mm-hmm. In most cases, they don't know how their parents are going to react. They don't know how their life is going to change because they've been told many things, true or not. They've been told many things, and they're confused. They're young. They're confused, and just the mere fact that they can come in, they can see you, they can discuss these issues. How many would you say? I mean, I'm sure you've counseled them to go talk to their parents, or even offered. I don't know if you offer this, but the parents could come in and kind of talk with you and talk with the pregnant teen at the same time. I mean, how many of these things end positively, where the parents going, okay, I'm not happy about this, but we're going to work this out.
Yeah, we do. We coach the young people on how they might tell their parents when that's what they want to do. We'll give them some pointers because we want to set them up for the best case scenario. When we get the chance to work with the parents, and it's really better when parent and teen can get together and problem solve together, and it's a shared decision-making process. It's a win-win for everybody. So, parents, it helps to remind them that we know that they love their kids. They've invested sacrificially in their kids and the raising of their children, and they have best of hopes, and they're just as much in crisis as a young person. And they realize that there's a lot that really helps them just be able to look at it a little bit more objectively and say, yeah, we're really shocked and we're dealing with emotions too. So let's try and talk those through. Yeah. What typically happens is that when the young people are afraid to tell their parents, but then they choose to, you see a really interesting, and I wish I could see more of it. You see the young people talking with their parents, coming to the parents with a plan to take responsibility. And the parents looking at the kids going, I'm in shock, but right now I'm seeing you more mature and taking responsibility in ways I've never seen you do before. And they start working together. I've seen it really bring families closer together. You don't want to see people get pregnant to do that, but in reality, you jump in the same foxhole together and you've got each other's back, you come out closer, right?
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting and exciting process to watch parents and teens really connect and work together.
And you offer ultrasounds, correct, to make sure that there is a pregnancy and what have you, so they got real information to make decisions on.
So we always have nurses on staff. We have nurse sonographers on staff, so we can do ultrasounds any time that we're open. We have 2 doctors, and so once we have that positive pregnancy test, the doctor orders that ultrasound, and if the timing is right for the young lady, depending on when her last cycle was, we can get her in as early as that same day. So they can get all their answers to all their questions. They get facts. They have personal support. They can stay as long as they need to talk. So we just want to be available to them and listen to them and really hear what their concerns are and help them brainstorm their next steps.
And now these are anonymous. I would imagine that when you find out a young lady is pregnant, she's filled out the form. It's not like you pick up the phone and call the parent to say, hey, guess what, correct?
No, legally we can't. We couldn't do that anyway. Okay. But in working with anybody, no matter what your profession is, when you're working with people, if you don't have their trust,
correct,
you don't have their confidence. And that's the point that things start to maybe disintegrate, because then they can't trust and rely on what you're telling them or what you're offering them if they can't trust you to do what you say you're going to do. So they are entitled to confidentiality from the age of 12 on up in our state. And so we don't typically say them that young, but they are entitled to confidentiality. We don't call the parents. We don't call anyone. We let them decide who they want to call and who they feel would be on their team. And then we provide them the support that they need in the process.
So I know you're tight on time, so I want you to get it out there. Where can they find you? How do they get a hold of you? What's the website? And again, it doesn't hurt, ladies. If you find yourself in a bad position, young ladies, you can give the call. They're not going to trace your call and call your parents or what have you. How can they call and get help or some counseling?
Yeah, we also, guys have questions. They're part of the decision-making. Parents have questions for them, too. SCV, for Santa Clarita Valley, PC.org. That's scvpc.org. Our phone number is 661-255-0084. There is a chat option on our website, so they can there as well. We will be having a text line coming up soon, maybe in a week or so. But call. We're open late on Wednesday till 8 o'clock. We're open every other Saturday. So give a call, and we'd be happy just to provide information if you need information, and or pregnancy testing and ultrasound as well. So.
All right. Well, Angela, again, God bless you for what you're doing. Thank you for the work you're doing, people. Get information, get informed. And whether you think your daughter's pregnant or not, or even sexually active or not, this is information. One of those things that you should have up on the refrigerator so they can call if they need help. And Angela, God bless. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Joe. Right. Thank you. God bless you.
You too.
Bye.
Again, it's all about information. That's what we always hear. We hear it in the education world. Right, we hear it in the news cycles that we need more information to be informed. You have to have what you need to have to make an informed decision. I'm one of those guys who believes then do it all. Don't play that game that the only option, because your life is going to be ruined if you have that child, your only option is an abortion, because it's not. And it's not right to say that. And in all sincerity too, we keep talking about the education in our schools and the things we want to show our kids or teach our kids, or as some people put it, indoctrinate our kids, then show them everything. When it comes to, science class, biology, social studies, whatever it is, and these issues come up, and abortion issues, frankly, whether you want to believe it or not, do come up at school on a regular basis, then talk about your options. Talk about the adoption option. And frankly, this is got a whole bunch of people turn off their radios. If you're so into abortion and it's not a big deal and it's not really killing a baby, show the process in biology. You keep talking about being truthful with these kids, being honest with these kids, and that 9-year-olds can make a decision or 8-year-olds can make a decision on hormone blockers, but they can't make a decision based on what they see from in a biology class about abortion. Maybe even some testimonies from people whose kids were adopted, or the kids that were adopted, and thankful. I go down a whole list of famous people that are against abortion because their parents didn't abort them and allowed them to be adopted, or went on with the pregnancy and got all kinds of support from the family. And the young lady was able to finish school. And, we talk about the men. Yeah, they're just as responsible. They need to be responsible. I personally believe that over the years they've been pushed out of that. They've been pushed out of that scenario. They're not allowed to be engaged or involved. Let's switch gears for a second and talk about Deputy Ryan Klingenbrummer. There will be, and you can check it out on the website, hometownstation.com. There will be an event on Sunday evening to honor him, a vigil. Another senseless killing. I won't turn it into a political conversation, I promise. But I mean, seriously, we live in an area where we have D.A. Gascon who doesn't like to prosecute these things, who won't do any add-on charges. This was brutal. This was a deputy who's out there willing to jump in front of bullets for you and I, who's willing to respond to calls about crime, to protect you. And a coward, I'll even go worse, a cowardly thug stepped up and shot him in the head cold-blooded, ambushed him. Nobody can justify that. Nobody can justify reducing charges. Nobody can, but hey, what's the big whoop? Right? Not a big deal. They're killing deputies and police all over the place because they're such bad people, right? It's infuriating to me. I have family members that were in the police. What other group? Who comes running? Who helps you out when there's an issue or a problem? It's the police department. They're the ones that come running to protect you. And it doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter what religious background you have. They protect all. Do you have racist cops? Yeah. You have racist teachers. You have racist firemen. I mean, racism exists. It's wrong. But as long as you have people, as long as you have humans, as long as you have a heartbeat, or people with a heartbeat, you are going to have racist people. You're going to have hateful people. You're going to have, look at what's happening today. You have people that hate each other simply for political viewpoint, or taking a stand for or against life. Taking a stand, for or against same-sex marriage, for or against the 1619 history that has been debunked over and over and over again, even by black scholars. But these are hateful words, right? That's another thing, here in California. If you guys would check some of the laws that Gavin Newsom, or as I lovingly refer to him as Gavin Nuisance, is willing to sign into law. First of all, local school boards are totally losing their ability to govern locally. Remember, we're a representative government. Local school boards are voted in by the locals to represent their viewpoints, what their foundations are, if you would. Santa Clarita is different than San Francisco or Sacramento or Oakland or San Diego. Different cultures, different ethnicities, different lifestyles, if you would. You can't make everybody the same. It's ridiculous to think so. Always a pleasure to have you with me. Listen to KHTS, AM 1220, and FM. If I had my glasses on, I could tell you what that number is. 98.1. Don't go far. A lot more rambling after the break. I'm Joe Messina, your guest host today for Pastor Jerry, who's out enjoying himself. Mini vacation, I guess. We are back. Always appreciate your time with me. No, it is not Jerry Cook or Pastor Jerry Cook. It's Joe Messina filling in for Pastor Jerry Cook. Always a pleasure for me. My show you can catch on KHTS every night, 9 to midnight. Many people say that they listen to me on the way to bed. I don't know if that's good or bad. Where we deal with the issues today across the country. It's more of a national show with some local information. Jerry's show is on every week. Politics The Pulpit. It's really funny to watch some of the comments on Facebook about this show. I think it's hilarious where people think that the religion and politics should have a solid separation. I'd like that. First of all, if you're not of a religious belief, then I can see where it would bother you. But if you are, I'm sorry. I mean, biblically, it tells us over and over and over again to be involved in these kind of things. And I could spew scripture, but I'll leave that up to the pastor. But the bottom line is we are to vote for people that uphold our values. Our ballot, if you would, is the Bible. It's not the thing the county sends to you. It's really easy for these people to say stuff in the little in the ballot comments. Easy for them to say stuff online. But how do they operate? Look at how they voted. Many people now have voting records. New people that have gotten into offices. Look at how they've been voting. And you'll have a clue as to what they want. Talking a little bit about gun rights. I know this makes some of you crazy. But think about it. When all these cities that have decided they need to, get rid of the Second Amendment, people should be allowed to carry guns in any way, shape, manner, or form. And that's the way they're gonna stop gun crime. Yeah, let that sink in for a second. So, since you find that 99.99% of the time, there are criminals, there are people who shouldn't have a gun, there are people who have stolen guns that are committing these crimes, and you're going to go to the law-abiding person and make them pay the price. The New Mexican governor, as you well know, last week started a firestorm by stating that basically she was canning the Second Amendment. Even if you had a legal permit to carry a gun, you weren't going to be allowed to carry a gun. She was calling for a state of an emergency. I love this. A state of emergency, and therefore gave her the power. Well, that's not true. Your constitutional rights don't get suspended in a state of emergency. Maybe local ordinances, maybe local laws, but not the Constitution. Those are your rights all the way through. But the funny thing about it was, she didn't call for more money for more police. She didn't call for more money to clean up the jails, to make sure that they had the right people in it, they had more prosecutors. No. What does she do? Because the crimes she was talking about had just been committed by people who had no right having guns. Think of the logic. I mean, how much dope do you have to smoke to think this makes sense? So what you have is, you have a governor that says, even though these crimes are being committed by people who should not have guns, don't have a right to have guns, don't have a license to carry a gun, we're going to dismiss that and go over here and say, okay, you have a license, you've passed a background check, you've not had, in LA County, or if you get in trouble and you have a license to carry a gun, and you get in trouble, even if you don't have the gun on you, you can lose your license to carry. Why would I step out and do that? Why would I even have, if I'm going to break the law anyhow, why would I even bother getting a license to carry? So in New Mexico, she suggested that the sheriffs actually, because she suspended their right to carry, she wanted the sheriffs and the DA, sheriffs to arrest, the DA to charge or put these people in jail. Think about that. Any of you send me a sound clip, I'd love it. Give me a sound clip where she says, we need to start putting these people that are carrying guns illegally, that are committing crimes, we need to put more of them in jail. She didn't say that. She actually called for jailing the people who had a right to carry, who had a license to carry, and who didn't get in any trouble. Explain that to me. How does that make sense? Well, it doesn't. My fear is a lot of these people have gotten in office, a lot of these governors who have gotten into office, even mayors who've gotten into office, they think it's a dictatorial position. That the law really doesn't matter once you get in. They can kind of decide what they're going to work with, not work with, what they're going to allow and not allow. I find it the height of hypocrisy when you have governors like, a mayor like Adams out of New York, who is crying and whining about the fact that they're getting 10,000, what he calls immigrants, every month, making a big noise about it. We can't do this. This is going to kill New York City. Didn't care about the tens of thousands going into Texas. And actually suggesting that the Texas governor wasn't humane because he didn't want them there. Because he was saying they couldn't handle it. He told them to suck it up. Why do we have two sets of, principles, I guess? A lot of people want to know why the right and the left don't get along with what they're doing. I'm calling them out as the right and the left. Why we have such a hard time getting along. Or why we're always in each other's faces. Or whatever it is you want to use as a term. It's because of this kind of thing exactly. It's because it seems like whatever you like for the moment is the law. Whatever you like it should be done. It's almost like there is no law, but whatever you decide is right or wrong, or what you can prosecute or rail against. Like these people that want to shut down fossil fuels today. They're at the UN picketing. Need to be shut down immediately. Good. Go for it. Let's see how you like that. Let's see when we stop digging, drilling for oil, petroleum products. Look at that thing you're holding in your hand that you're actually texting out on. What do you think it takes to make that? What do you think it takes to make solar panels? What do you think it takes to make these wind farms? You need to have petroleum for a lot of this stuff. These are petroleum / oil-based products. And is this a sad statement on our education system in the country that they don't know this? Don't understand how the economy works? Don't understand simple science? It's really sad when you see some of these rallies, if you would, when you see some of these people screaming for the different rights or excluding rights from certain people. I think it's a real sad state of where our young people are at from an educational standpoint, what they believe to be true, what they perceive that they know to be truth. You're listening to KHTS. So I get worked up with this stuff because we are hurting our children. We're hurting so many people when we don't really sit down and explain to them what the process is, what the ramifications are. We can't go all electric tomorrow. It's not going to work. I find it another height of hypocrisy. How many of you have taken advantage of the Southern California Edison? I know I'm all over the place because I'm enjoying this. I don't get to do this that often. Southern California Edison, check this out, is offering rebates on generators for your home. If you order certain generators and you use them for your home to provide power when there is none, they will give you back, in some cases, 90% of what you paid for it, sometimes 50% of what have you. However, they want you off of, Newsom has signed a law that they want you off of small gas-powered engine appliances, garden tools, any of those things. Right? Anybody know? Is it 2025, 2035, whatever the date is? So here you have an agency that's saying, here, buy this gas-powered product so that you can provide electricity for your home when we can't provide you electricity, or I don't know, maybe they think that there's going to be too many clouds and your solar panels aren't going to work. I don't know. And then they're going to give you money back on it, on buying that gas-powered product that you can't replace later on because it won't be sold here. You won't be allowed to buy it here. Now, I also know that the state is pushing what's called, which I think is hilarious, solar-powered generators. Can anybody figure out what that means? Because you have to use solar panels, check this out, to charge lithium batteries. And, they're so easy to mine and so easy to get rid of, right? But you're gonna charge those batteries so that you can use them in a power outage. Yeah, let that sink in. It's not a generator. It's a storage battery. It's a quote-unquote battery backup. And again, if you do have overcast like you've seen every morning here, how is that going to help you? What's that going to do for you? I just, again, find all of this amazing that nobody's actually sitting there thinking it through. Governor Newsom last week, after screaming about natural gas and how bad fossil fuels are, he did a couple of quiet things last week. Didn't make a big deal out of them, right? Expanded natural gas storage. I thought we were doing away with that. I thought we didn't want natural gas anymore. He's expanded storage for natural gas. Where's the outrage? Where are all the eco-freaks out there, right, picketing his house or whatever? Nowhere to be found. I just find this stuff quite interesting. Nuclear was so bad that we have to shut down a nuclear power plant here, the San Onofre power plant. Well, he's quietly allowed that to move on, not do a total shutdown. What's that all about? In all seriousness, what's that all about? Because he knows he can't do this. He knows he can't make it work. And for those of you who are supporters of him, why aren't you calling him out on these things? Why aren't you writing those letters to him, making it tough for him to pass these things? It really is getting kind of crazy. Recently, when Newsom was in on CNN's Dana Bash, he tried to sound like a little more of an old-fashioned liberal, a Kennedy liberal, if you would. It didn't work out well for him. There were many questions he couldn't answer. She asked him several times too, hey, what's your limit on abortion? Is there a limit? Is there a time? Is there a point where you say, no, not going to happen? He would answer the question. He danced all around it. He wouldn't answer the question. No, there isn't any. If he really feels the way he said he's felt in the past, he should have said, look, I wouldn't put a limit on it. It's up to a woman. End of discussion. Move on to the next question. But he wouldn't do it. And then he said it's made up. Basically, it's a farce. It's made up by the right. That abortions don't happen that late. Post-birth abortions don't happen that late. Yeah, it's not true. It's a lie. New York City passed a law on, New York State passed a law on it. You saw what happened in Connecticut. If the baby survives an abortion attempt, they have a right to leave it in another room to die. Yeah, let that go through your head for a minute. I know some of you are finding this really distasteful. But that's the truth. That's the reality of what's happening. He says it doesn't happen. He doesn't want to see it. He's not interested in it. Now he's filing suits against the top oil companies. BP, Exxon, Chevron, Shell, saying that they know that they're deceiving the public. They know that the fossil fuels are causing environmental harm. And they need to stop doing it. They've been covering it up like the tobacco companies since the 50s and 60s. Is he for real? You know, we buy the hype of the media or the mainstream media. I would admonish some of you to do your own homework. Step up, truly. If you're on the left, get away from MSNBC, get away from CNN. If you're on the right, ditch Fox, ditch Newsmax, and go out and do your own homework. Really look truly at what's going on in the climate, what the cycles have been over the thousands of years. And if you look at places, what is it? Was it China pull out of the Paris Accords now? They're not interested in any of this. And some of you are going to say, well, we shouldn't worry about what they're doing. Except that when we're in the middle of arguing about these things and you say, look, everybody else is doing it. We should be like Europe. We should be like this. We should be like that. No, we shouldn't. We should do what's right for us first. We should make sure we're solid. We've got what we need before we help out other people. That simple. And again, I love this, that Newsom went off on these oil companies. Had no problem taking money from them, but he went off on these oil companies and what they've done over the years. Just amazing. And he's trying to come off as saying that we are the freest state. My God, some of you need to go to some of the bills that would just pass by him. There are more and more parents' rights being squelched. There are more and more rights, even citizen rights. When you talk about here in Santa Clarita, we have 6 school boards, 6 school districts. You are voting for people you want to represent you. Do you want that person to represent you, or do you want the state to represent you? Because if you want the state to represent you, then keep voting the way you're voting. Don't vote for school boards anymore. Hand it all over to the state. Let them decide. Because they're taking more and more and more power away from the trustees here locally, which means they're taking more and more power away from your people. Because you've decided who you want to represent you. And when you made the votes locally, you made the votes understanding, or believing, I should say, that you believe in local government. You've hired these people by voting for them because you want them to understand, to know the local culture and how they should be governing locally. State has no idea what's going on here. Absolutely none. They can't make decisions for us, for education. It doesn't make any sense. Even when it comes to city councils. They don't know what's going on. They want to treat Santa Clarita Valley like they treat downtown L.A., like they treat downtown San Francisco. The rules, the ordinances, the laws, or whatever. It doesn't make any sense. Absolutely none to me. And that's why, even whether you're on the left or the right, it really doesn't matter. You should be you should be understanding that you vote locally for local people and you want to be represented locally. Always appreciate your time with me. You're listening to KHTS AM and FM. I'm Joe Messina, your guest host in today for the Pastor Jerry Cook. That's AM 1220, FM 98.1. be heard throughout the whole valley, and actually into as you're leaving the valley too. You just keep it here in the morning, keep it here in the afternoons. You get your traffic reports, get your news, weather, sports, and local news. Nothing like local news to keep you up on what's going on. Again, like I said, check it out. Check out the station later on, hometownstation.com. The sheriff who was recently, deputy sheriff who was recently killed, Ryan Chickenbroomer, is going to be honored on Sunday night here in Santa Clarita Valley. Be back in a few minutes. Don't go far. We are back. You're listening to the Politics of the Pulpit. Not with Pastor Jerry Cook. He's not in today and enjoying himself some time off. Always appreciate when he gives me the opportunity to take on a local show. If you want to catch my show, Joe Messina Show, it's here, carried on this station from 9 to midnight. Every night, Monday through Friday, we deal with the issues of the day. I believe we have some great guests on to discuss everything. I don't care whether it's politics and what's going on in China, what's going on in Iran, or anywhere like that. We deal more with more of the worldly issues. So I always when I get a chance to talk about local issues, it's always great. And I do appreciate the time that he gives me. You know, back again, we were talking about local politics. I got a couple of text messages from people, and yeah, you got to pay attention. What I find as a school board trustee, and I'm not speaking as a trustee right now, but more so, sitting in that seat and watching what goes down with other trustees in town, what's going down with the different school boards. And I know parents are raising their kids, and they've got a life to live. They're trying to put food on the table. It's kind of tough today. But you still have to be involved in your child's education in many ways, many more ways than just checking homework and asking questions when they walk in the door. You need to start going to some school board meetings, whether you make a resolve to go to maybe one or two a quarter, right? One every couple of months, two every couple of months. Every school board or every district has an agenda, and on that agenda for the meeting, they'll tell you what they're discussing, what they're going to be talking about, and go and be heard. What's really funny is one of the biggest complaints we get is they don't listen to us. Well, as a school board member, I'll tell you what we don't listen to is when we don't see you in 52 weeks, we don't see you but once, you show up, tell us how wrong we are, call us names, and then leave. Well, I get that in my emails. Every one of the trustees in town gets nasties in their emails and positives, but you have to be engaged and be involved. Nothing happens overnight. Many people got discouraged recently because some of the changes that they wanted didn't take place in a short period of time, so they stopped coming. But it's a long process. So that's number one. If you really want to change education, if you really want to change what's going on in schools, show up at the board meetings, listen, ask questions, and frankly, demand answers. Don't let them get away with not addressing your issues. That's what happens. Many parents I talk to, and I talk to a lot during the week, you think you have no power. You have plenty of power. And don't make the educators or the trustees or anybody else make you feel ignorant or unworthy, like they're smarter than you are. Now, they might have a degree. It doesn't mean that they're smarter than you are. There isn't anybody who knows or loves your kids or care about your kids or will do for your kids like you will. And, we have some great teachers. And I defended a bunch. I know some of you get irritated when teachers say they're my kids. Well, they are their kids, not in the sense that they belong to them. They're their kids. They're in their custody, X amount of hours a day. And a lot of our teachers, I'm not going to tell you it's 100% because that would be a lie, but a lot of our teachers love those kids and want to do the right thing by them and want to train them up, want to teach them properly, not indoctrinate them, but teach them properly. You can't put a hex on all the teachers because a small amount of them do want to indoctrinate your kids into a different, to believe different things than you do. But when it comes to education in this valley, you can have a say. We see you. We're small enough. I have constituents that I've talked to at the gas station, at the supermarket, sitting having lunch, having one of them walk up and start talking. And I really don't mind it. It's not a big deal. I mean, these are your kids we're talking about. Get involved and get engaged. Show up at those meetings. Be not just prepared, but make sure you have actual facts. Because a lot of people like to spew their party line, right and left. when they get up there yelling at us. Have your facts laid out so that you can actually put up a fight, put up a good, lay it out properly so we can actually go back and say, well, wait a minute, that person had some information that we didn't know or we didn't know about or hadn't been revealed to us before. Let's check into this. We had it happen at the school board. And it's just amazing to me. Some of you who may be listening, maybe not keeping up on this, but we had books in our library, as do other schools, that actually had illustrations of oral sex and sex. Right? And we actually had people say it was wrong for us to pull that book. I mean, are we serious here? Is that our role as a school board? We approved removing those books from the libraries. Now, many of you said, well, that's because it was a gay sex or whatever. That's not true. Not true by any stretch of the imagination. Because if the book was about heterosexual sex, we would have been the same way. I don't need illustrations in a high school. Frankly and honestly, to be blunt, many kids in high school do not need illustrations to know how to have sex. Okay? In the immortal words of Joan Rivers, can we talk here? The bottom line with it is, though, that's not what we're supposed to be teaching in school. We're not supposed to be teaching how to have sex. We're supposed to be teaching about reproductive health. Why they call it sex education now is, to me, might kind of be obvious. But the reality is those books don't belong in the schools. Those aren't things we should be teaching or talking about. You talk about reproductive health. Talk about real history. I'm tired of seeing these memes that come up with Black history on it saying things you were never taught in school. No. If you were drugged out or if your teacher was a real racist, yeah, you weren't taught those things. I haven't seen anything yet. Now, I've learned a lot, in doing some research, but I haven't seen anything yet that's popped up about history that I didn't know or hadn't heard or hadn't been taught or hadn't been talked about in my history classes. It might be because I went to school in Boston, 2.5 blocks from the older church, and maybe we were more into history or paying more attention. I don't know. But to say, think about it, the same people who want to defend education say that this stuff isn't taught in schools. Well, you've got control of the education system, change it. But it's not true. Many, many, many of our teachers are teaching true history, true government. And that's the way it should be. Whether it's distasteful or not, that's the way it should be. And my last note is for those of you who believe that we don't teach real history because we don't teach 1619 history. Yeah. You always say go to the experts. That's what you say when we talk about the teachers. Go to the experts. You go to the experts. You go to the Black historians, the Black scholars who say this is wrong, this is debunked. This was a journalist that wrote this, and somehow everybody bought into it. Pastor Cook joins you again next week. He'll be back next Wednesday, I am sure. He's got a special guest, I believe. You don't want to miss it. I think they're going to do lessons on paddling elected officials. I'm not sure, but we'll find out about that next week. Anyway, God bless. Have a great rest of the week. I'm Joe Messina, your guest host for today. Pastor Jerry will be back with you next week.